Hey everyone! Tonight we're going to drift back, very slowly, into the quiet folds of medieval Castile. If you're settling under a blanket, or maybe just letting your eyelids grow a little heavy, this is your cue to breathe out, loosen your shoulders, and let the room go dim. I'm going to share a story that isn't really a story at all, more a gentle, meandering walk through numbers on parchment. For 2 unhurried hours, we'll trace the humble sheep-shearing tax, a single, almost forgettable fee that shepherds paid for every fleece clipped between the years 1100 and 1400. Nothing dramatic happens here, no battles, no betrayals, just a patient parade of dates, coins, and woolly head counts. Tonight, think of me as that friend who rambles on about some oddly specific hobby while you relax beside a crackling fire. My voice will stay soft, the pace unhurried. If you doze off, and I truly hope you do, you won't miss any plot twists, because there aren't any. Whenever you wake again, we'll probably still be on the same dusty ledger, reading the same little numbers, turning the same quiet page. We'll begin in the stony uplands north of Burgos, where early toll collectors stood at pasture gates with tiny wooden counters. Then, chapter by chapter, we'll follow the fee as it widens across valleys, slides into royal decrees, and settles into the steady rhythm of everyday life. Always the same tax, always the same calm repetition. At times, I'll pause, let the rain speak for a while, and then continue, almost exactly where we left off. You might notice certain phrases returning. Phrases like, quietly, the shepherds paid, or, and so the tally was noted. That sameness is intentional. It's the soft cotton padding that lets your mind wander off without feeling it's missed anything important. So, if your breathing has slowed and your pillow feels just right, let's begin. We'll start with a single year, the year 1103, when a local scribe, ink nearly dry, recorded that the parish of Amaya collected 1 maravedi for each of its 412 sheep. No rush. Just picture a little stack of copper coins, neatly counted, then pushed aside with a quiet scrape. In a moment, we'll look at the very next year, and the next, and the next. For now, ease into the rhythm of the rain, and allow these small, gentle details to blur at the edges. Whenever you're ready, eyes open or closed, we'll stroll onward together, step by unhurried step, through 3 centuries of soft, wool-scented numbers. The rain keeps its unhurried rhythm while we linger over those earliest parchment pages. We begin with 1104, a year so much like the one before that you might mistake the entries for echoes. 418 sheep, 1 maravedi each. 6 small copper coins are stacked in a neat column, a faint clink as they touch, and the scribe notes without any comment that all was received in proper order. In 1105, nothing changes but the tally. 422 sheep, still 1 maravedi apiece. The same shepherds walk the same stony path to the parish clerk, each handing over a single coin. Some coins are bright, just minted in Lyon. Others are worn thin, edges rounded by years in cloth pouches. Yet every coin is counted with the same gentle tap onto the wooden table. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. Year by year, the entries stroll forward. 1106. 417 sheep, levy gathered without quarrel. 1107. 420 sheep, coins sound and true. 1108. 419 sheep, collection punctual, no arrears. If your mind drifts, don't worry, the pattern waits for you. The scribe does not hurry, and neither shall we. By 1110, the parish of Amaya decides to include a small side note. The road was muddy that spring, so the shepherds arrived in pairs, leading the flock 2 by 2. The tax, however, remained unchanged. 1 coin per fleece, 1 breath per sentence. In 1113, a mild curiosity appears. A shepherd named Rodrigo offers his coin in the form of 2 half maravedis pieces, each carefully clipped before the clerk for fairness. The parchment records this with exquisite neutrality. Accepted without prejudice, weight verified, nothing more. And so the tally is noted. Between 1115 and 1120, the sheep count lingers in the low 400s, drifting up by 5, down by 3, like a slow tide that no one bothers to measure exactly. A single phrase recurs at the close of every year, thus the matter rested. It becomes almost a lullaby, thus the matter rested. A subtle change arrives in 1121. A wandering royal collector passes through Burgos province, observing local levies. He does not alter the rate. He only asks for a duplicate roll to be forwarded to the chancery in Toledo. The parish dutifully copies each number in the same hand, sending it south on a donkey's back. Far away, a second clerk files the duplicate among hundreds of other duplicates, all alike. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the crown takes notice, but only from a very great distance. From 1122 to 1129, the routine holds, but a drizzle of extra. Then, in 1130, the flock grows, 456 sheep. The scribe remarks almost brightly that shearing proceeded from dawn until just past noon. Imagine that gentle scene. Shears snipping, wool piling like clouds at the shepherd's feet. Yet for each fleece, still 1 maravedi. A larger sack of coins weighs on the table, but the rhythm is unchanged. Tap, 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 one by one, then, thus the matter rested. Over the next decade, the tally inches upward. 1133, 461 sheep. 1137, 472 sheep. 1140, 483 sheep. No commentary announces this gradual rise. The flock simply grows because grass is plentiful and wolves are few. The rate never budges, 1 sheep, 1 coin. The silence between lines lengthens, offering space for your own slow breath. In 1144, we glimpse a modest adjustment. The clerk adopts a new quill, and the script leans slightly to the right. He still writes the same sentences. Levy gathered without quarrel. All was received in proper order. But the flourish on each capital letter curls a little longer, as though the quill itself is stretching its wings. Finally, 1150 arrives. By now, the yearly entry is so predictable that the clerk summarizes half a decade in a single paragraph. From the feast of Saint Isidore, year 1146, unto the feast of Saint Isidore, year 1150. A total of 2,391 sheep were shorn within the parish bounds. The customary levy of 1 maravedi per fleece was rendered in full. Each coin weighed upon the small brass balance, found pleasingly just. Thus the matter rested. And with those words, thus the matter rested, the clerk lifts his quill, dusts the page with sand, and closes the first thin ledger of our long, uninterrupted journey. Nothing dramatic has stirred. Yet an entire half-century has passed beneath the quiet beat of rainfall and copper. Take a moment to let this sameness settle over you like a woolen blanket. The rain continues, the night holds steady, and our tale moves on at exactly the speed of drowsy breathing. In the next chapter, we'll open a fresh ledger and find the tax making its slow way south toward the Tagus Valley. Still 1 coin, still 1 fleece, each step as soft as the light. The rain drifts on, light and even as we unfasten a fresh sheet of parchment, slightly thicker, smelling faintly of sheep tallow and oak gall ink. Our scribe, now a little older, straightens his back and begins once more with the simplest of notes. 1151, 482 sheep, levy gathered without quarrel. A familiar start as if we never paused. The coins clink, the clerk nods, the ledger accepts its first new line. But a ripple of change follows. Shepherds from the neighbouring valley of Polmaza have asked to graze along the parish border, and the local priest, practical man, extends the levy. 1 coin per fleece for parish folk, 1 coin plus a half denaro surcharge for visitors. The scribe writes it down with studied calm, adding, "No resistance recorded, all parties content." And so the entries lengthen by a single quiet clause. 1152, 501 sheep, including 61 from Hormaza, each at customary rate and surcharge. 1153, 503 sheep, same division, monies weighed upon the brass scale. Quietly the shepherds pay, quietly the clerk records. By 1155, a second border village, Isar, asks permission to pass each spring. The parish, generous but consistent, applies the same half-denaro addition. The ledger dutifully grows. 547 sheep, parish 461, Hormaza 58, Isar 28. Each group receives its own tidy column of coins. No extra commentary. The pattern is enough. Through the late 1150s, the numbers wobble like a slow metronome. A lean winter trims Hormaza's flock. A mild summer fattens Isar's. Yet every line ends alike. Collection rendered in full. In 1160, our clerk notes a novelty, payment in kind. 3 shepherds present skeins of spun wool equal in value to their coins. The scribe, with mild curiosity, weighs the bundles, then accepts them. He writes, "Substitutions permitted this year, fleece for fleece, weight for weight, rate unchanged." One moment of quiet adaptation, soon swallowed by routine. Year after year the ledger carries on. 1163, 562 sheep, 1 maravedi per fleece, surcharge unchanged. 1166, 560 sheep, weather fair, thus the matter rested. 1169, 567 sheep, 2 skeins accepted in lieu of coin. If your thoughts wander, let them, and you drift back, the same gentle math awaits. By the early 1170s, a broader road is carved southward towards the Tagus Valley. Traffic thickens, hooves beating dust into soft clouds. Our parish tollgate becomes a way station. Visiting flocks now arrive weekly. The clerk responds not with excitement, but with columns. 1172. 609 sheep, parish 450, Hormaza 81, EL 34, passing southward 44. Coins pile higher, yet the silence of process remains. Tap, tap, tap. Each piece measured on the little brass balance, each entry closed with the lullaby phrase, "All was received in proper order." In 1175, the crown's wandering collector returns, eyes kinder with age, and merely copies the swollen figures. He neither praises nor scolds. He only murmurs that the chancery will be pleased. Then he rides on, leaving behind the suffering of harness bells. Between 1176 and 1185, the flock tallies hover just above 600. This decade earns a brief marginal note. Grass abundant these years. Nothing else. Even plenty becomes dull when recorded with perfect sameness. A tiny shadow crosses the page in 1187, rumors of wolves migrating from the Cantabrian range. The clerk writes a single dry observation, losses minimal, levy unaffected, and so the coins still fall in neat lines. In 1190, the tally at last tips over a small milestone, 703 sheep. The scribe indulges himself with a longer curl on the capital S of sheep, but the sentence beneath is flat as ever. 703 sheep, levy exacted at customary rate, surcharge as heretofore, collection punctual. If you blink, the flourish vanishes, the monotony endures. As the century's final years slide past, 1194, 1197, 1199, the numbers now breeze comfortably above 700, dipping some years, rising others, always followed by the same closing words. Thus the matter rested. And so we reach 1200, the eve of a new ledger. The clerk, hand steady despite the candle's low wick, summarizes. From the feast of St. Julian, year 1196, unto the feast of St. Julian, year 1200, a total of 3,041 sheep passed the parish gate. levy collected in maravedis, and, on 27 occasions, in wool, accounts balanced to the last half dinero. He dusts the page, sets down his quill, and lets the ink dry while rain hums against the shutters. Another ledger closes, thick with sameness, soft as wool. Take a gentle breath. Notice how the repetition settles over your thoughts like a slow-moving cloud. In the quiet chapters ahead, the tax will edge farther south, gathering new names, Montazgo and Servicio, yet keeping its sleepy, coin-for-fleece heartbeat. We'll join it soon, but there is no hurry. For now, rest in the soft hush of copper and parchment. The rain will keep our place.
The shutters creak just a little as the wind changes, yet the rain never hurries. Somewhere beyond our parish border, the hard-packed track that leads south towards the Tagus Valley is widening, hoof by hoof, cartwheel by cartwheel, until at last it earns a new name, the Royal Wool Road. The clerk hears the news but reacts with his usual composure. He fetches a fresh quill, lays out a new sheet, and titles it simply, Accounts of Passing Flocks. Then he begins, one line at a time. 1201. 706 parish sheep, 49 visiting sheep, levy gathered in coin. He dots the period, pauses for a sip of watered wine, and listens to the rain. From 1202 through 1205, the figures stretch gently, like a cat at the hearth. 1202, 712 parish sheep, 61 visiting. 1203, 718 parish, 63 visiting. 2 skeins of coarse wool accepted. 1204, 725 parish, 62 visiting. Levy weighed, surcharge noted. 1205, 723 parish, 64 visiting. No delays. Nothing stirs beyond the soft scrape of quill on parchment. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. The crown takes note. Midsummer of 1206 brings a small procession of royal officials, 3 men on mules, leather satchels bulging with blank forms. They speak in courteous whispers, as though afraid to wake the sheep. Their mission is simple: copy the parish figures into neat columns for the chancery in Toledo. The clerk obliges. He writes, Royal collectors present. Levies observed, found consistent. 1 coin per fleece, half dinero surcharge for flocks beyond parish bounds. Recommendation: extend practice to adjoining territories. That last phrase, extend practice, will become the pebble that starts a very slow avalanche. But for now, it lies motionless on the page. The officials depart, leaving behind a faint scent of saddle soap and parchment dust. The clerk turns to the next line as if nothing happened. A new word appears. By 1208, distant edicts begin to echo northward. The term montasco, a compound of monte, pasture, and peaje, toll, arrives in a folded letter sealed with green wax. The letter states with sleepy formality that all flocks crossing royal land shall pay the customary mountain toll, 1 coin per fleece, plus any local surcharges. The clerk raises an eyebrow, then makes a tidy notation, henceforth levy to be named montasco, rate unchanged. He underlines the new word once, lightly, and moves on. The ledger lengthens. From 1210 to 1219, the entries settle into an unvaried cadence. 1210, 731 parish sheep, 72 visiting. Montazgo gathered in coin. 1213, 744 parish, 81 visiting. 3 bundles of carded wool accepted. 1216, 742 parish, 96 visiting. Surcharge unaltered, thus the matter rested. 1219, 758 parish, 102 visiting. Levy rendered without quarrel. Occasionally, the clerk adds a weather note: dry spring, cool summer, but never with urgency. The rain outside your window is steadier than the seasons, he records. 1220, A royal whisper. A slender decree flutters in on a southbound courier. Let it be observed that royal coin shall be favored over wool in kind, yet substitutions may continue where scales prove true. The clerk copies this into the margin, then closes his eyes for a moment, listening to the patter on the roof. When he opens them again, the quill resumes its slow march. Late century tally. The 1220s see a gentle swelling of numbers, though no one exclaims over it. 1222, 765 parish, 109 visiting. 1225, 774 parish, 121 visiting. Wolf losses recorded as minor. 1228, 783 parish, 134 visiting. Rain plentiful, grass lush. Each year closes with the same muted refrain, accounts balanced to the last half dinero. And always, after the final figure, the clerk writes, "Thus the matter rested," as though tucking the numbers into bed. A pause before the charter. On a gray Advent afternoon in 1230, the clerk smooths the final leaf of this ledger and drafts his customary summary. From the feast of St. Michael, year 1201, unto the feast of St. Michael, year 1230, a total of 24,671 fleeces were shorn within and through the parish bounds. The montazgo at 1 maravedi per fleece, together with surcharges amounting to 3,411 half dinero pieces, was received in full. Substitutions in wool tallied at 59 skeins, all weighed and deemed acceptable. He sprinkles sand across the wet ink, waits, then gently shakes it off. Outside, the rain slackens to a whisper. Inside, the ledger's spine sighs as it closes. Another chapter of sameness, sealed and silent. Rest now in the hush between pages. The next ledger will open with a royal flourish, a charter issued by King Alfonso X.
Chapter 4. Royal Ink and the Great Charter, 1231 to 1273. The night settles a little deeper, as though it too feels the weight of ledgers closing and opening again. A new clerk, nephew to the last, sets out his materials, a candle trimmed low, a horn of ink the color of wet soil, and a ledger whose first page gleams blank and expectant. He inhales quietly, then begins where his uncle left off. The numbers plod on. 1231. 789 parish sheep, 137 visiting, montazgo rendered in coin. The quill forms each 9 with a tidy loop, then lifts, leaving silence in its wake. Across the 1230s, the figures inch upward as if pulled by an invisible hand. 793 parish, 142 visiting, surcharges unchanged. 1237, 796 parish, 151 visiting, 4 skeins accepted in kind. 1239, 801 parish, 159 visiting, levy gathered without quarrel. Nothing else intrudes, no clause of excitement, no sudden flourish, only the steady hum of arithmetic and light rain. During the early 1240s, a rumor drifts through the wool road, talk of unifying tolls across Castile. The clerk records it with a shrug. Royal Council debating levies, no decision reached. Then he returns to the flock counts, as calm as ever. The 1245, the road south has widened again, flanks of packed clay polished by hooves. Visiting flocks swell. 1245, 810 parish, 170 visiting. 1248, 817 parish, 192 visiting. Surcharge unaltered. 1250, 822 parish, 211 visiting. Weather fair, wolves scarce. On parchment, the totals resemble gentle rolling hills, each crest a single digit higher than the last. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. In the margins, he occasionally notes the mundane. Quill worn, new nib cut from goose feather. Ink thick,
watered with rain caught in pewter dish. Small observations, soft as background static, never disturbing the core equation. One fleece, one coin.
The council's murmur grows. Mid-century brings a flutter of letters sealed with crimson wax. They speak of a royal desire to knit scattered tolls into one harmonious system, all under the crown's steady gaze. Yet months pass, then years, and still nothing moves faster than parchment can curl. The clerk notes each letter with a patient hand. Letter from Toledo seeking tallies, responded. Second inquiry, same figures provided. Crown thanks parish for diligence, rate unchanged. The rain outside your window might be the very rain that dampened those letters. Time folds softly when little changes. A candle's width from decision. In 1265, a sharper edict arrives. The king intends to summon a great council of sheep masters, the Mesta, to standardize the montazgo across all grazing lands. Still, the ledger lines vary no more than the candle's flame. 1266, 831 parish, 234 visiting, levy exacted as before. 1269, 833 parish, 247 visiting, surcharge steady, thus the matter rested. 1273, the charter unfolds. At last, on a mist-silvered morning in 1273, a royal courier thunders up the wool road. He dismounts, bows, and produces a scroll bound in blue ribbon, the charter of the Honrado Consejo de la Mesta, issued by King Alfonso X. Our clerk breaks the seal with trembling fingers, though not from excitement so much as from the solemnity of new paperwork. He smooths the vellum and copies its opening lines into the ledger so slowly the ink seems to breathe. Know ye that we, Alfonso, by grace of God, King of Castile, Leon, Toledo, Galicia, and Seville, having considered the quiet benefit arising from the commerce of wool, line after steady line he transcribes, voice barely above a hush, until the key passage settles on the page. Therefore decree that every flock which moveth within the bounds of our realm shall render unto us a toll of 1 maravedi per fleece, to be called servicio y montazgo, and that this rate shall remain constant, neither raised nor diminished, save by express word of the crown. The proclamation is majestic in intent, yet to sleepy ears it sounds wonderfully familiar. 1 fleece, 1 coin, the same lullaby played on royal parchment. The clerk finishes the transcription, signs his name with modest flourish, and adds a closing note.
Rate in substance unchanged. Collection to continue as heretofore with due reverence to the crown.
Then he reaches for his sand shaker, dusts the final line, and waits for the ink to set. Outside, the rain resumes its gentle tap, unimpressed, unaltered.
Settling back into sameness. With regal decree now folded into the spine of local routine, the next few years slip by almost invisibly. 1274, 836 parish, 251 visiting, servicio y montazgo, gathered in coin. 1276, 839 parish, 259 visiting, levy rendered punctually. 1279, 842 parish, 263 visiting, 5 skeins accepted in kind, weighed true. No drama erupts, no new fee intrudes. The grand charter, once copied and filed, becomes just another line in the ledger's soft heartbeat. And so the clerk, candle guttering low, closes the book on the decade with familiar words. Accounts balanced to the last half dinero. Thus the matter rested. He breathes out, letting the stillness swell. If your eyelids have grown heavy, let them close.
The coin columns will wait, unmoving, until you drift back. In the chapters ahead, royal scribes will translate the charter into neat tariff tables, and parish clerks will read them aloud in voices barely louder than the rain. But the essence will not change. One fleece, one coin, repeated over years like waves on a distant shore. For now, rest where parchment, wool, and rainfall weave together into the gentlest of blankets. When you wake, or when the flicker of curiosity nudges you, I'll be here, ready to turn the next quiet page.
The candle has been trimmed, the ledger opened once more, and the rain outside slips into an almost metronomic hush. Inside, our clerk receives a parcel thicker than any he has seen. It holds nothing dramatic, only tariff tables, copied by royal scribes onto sheets wider than a shepherd's cloak. The top of each page is solemnly headed Servicio y Montazgo, definitive schedule of rates. Beneath, in columns so straight they might have been ruled with a hair, appear the tax brackets, identical on every sheet. 1 to 99 sheep, 1 maraví per fleece. 100 to 199 sheep, 1 maraví per fleece. 200 to 299 sheep, still 1 maraví per fleece. The clerk blinks, half smiles, and writes a private note in the margin. Rate constant, tables redundant. Then, dutiful to form, he copies the schedule anyway, row after row of sameness, until his wrist begins to hum with tiny aches. When night falls, he returns to his own parish counts. 1283, 844 parish sheep, 269 visiting, levies gathered precisely as the table prescribes. 1286, 846 parish, 275 visiting, surcharge unchanged. 1289, 848 parish, 281 visiting, 2 skeins accepted in lieu of coin. Each line ends with the soothing refrain, accounts balanced, thus the matter rested. The tables, magnificent in their uniformity, have changed nothing at all. Yet their very presence seems to deepen the lull. Repetition folds upon repetition, like wool pressed into thicker felt. Occasionally, a royal messenger stops to ensure that columns match columns. They always do. Coins are weighed against the tiny brass balance, declared true, and slid into leather purses that jingle so softly you might mistake them for distant wind chimes. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. A minor murmur of adjustment. In the final years of the century, whispers reach the parish that some distant provinces have begun to round down half-denaro fractions in especially lean seasons. The clerk notes this possibility, but the royal schedule remains firm. 1 fleece, 1 coin. After copying the whisper into a side margin, no rounding here, rate unchanged, he resumes his orderly march. The rain outside thickens for a moment, then softens again, as though reluctant to disturb the columns. If your eyelids flutter, let them settle. Every number will be waiting exactly where you left it. Drawing the century closed. By the time the calendar turns to 1400, the final tally of those late-century decades fills nearly half the ledger's bulk. From the feast of St. Luke in the year 1274 to the same feast in the year 1300, 32,628 parish fleeces and 9,341 visiting fleeces rendered Montazgo in full. Substitutions in wool tallied at 84 skeins, no arrears recorded. Thus the matter rested.
He dusts the closing line, folds a thin strip of linen between the pages as a marker, and pushes his chair back with the faintest sigh of contentment. The ledger, weighty now, closes like a padded door. Outside, the rain maintains its even cadence, uninterested in centuries or charters. Breathe in once, slowly, and notice how each statistic acts like a dim street lamp seen through mist, soft, unflickering, strangely reassuring. In the chapters to come, the toll will move farther south, absorbing new titles and re-ratifications, yet never shedding its gentle drone. When the next page opens, decades will have passed, but the rhythm, one fleece, one coin, will remain the same lullaby you're hearing now. Let it lull you. Let the numbers blur. Whenever you find yourself awake enough to wonder what happens after the dawn of the 14th century, turn back here, and we'll begin the next unhurried line together.
The ledger for the new century opens with a hush, as though it already knows that nothing truly new will appear upon its pages. Our clerk, now gray at the temples, dips his quill and begins with a line that feels like a lullaby you have heard before. 1301. 851 parish sheep, 270 visiting. Servicio y montazgo gathered in coin. The sentence ends. The rain continues. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. A decade of familiar footsteps. From 1302 through 1310, the numbers sway by single digits, never breaking stride. 1304. 857 parish, 273 visiting. No arrears. 1307. 861 parish, 281 visiting. 2 skeins accepted in kind. 1310. 864 parish, 289 visiting. Rate unchanged. Each year closes with the soft refrain the parish has come to love. Thus the matter rested. If your mind wanders, it wanders safely. Every column will be waiting when you return. 1315. A broader breath from the crown. Early spring brings a courier wearing the royal crest of Alfonso XI. His satchel contains yet another decree, ink still glistening. Let all flocks, whether parish or passing, render servicio y montazgo at 1 maravedí per fleece throughout the breadth of Castile and Leon, and let no local surcharge exceed 1/2 dinero, lest hardship fall unjust upon the shepherd. Our clerk copies the words exactly, then adds in the margin almost fondly, practical effect, rate unchanged. He files the parchment with the others, and life resumes its gentle arithmetic. Columns rise like slow hills. Through the 1320s, the visiting flocks grow thicker, hooves drumming like muffled rain on dry earth, yet the ledger hardly notices. 1322. 869 parish, 302 visiting. 1326. 874 parish, 320 visiting. Surcharge steady. 1329. 878 parish, 331 visiting. Levy rendered in full. Coins pile higher, but each is measured on the same little brass balance, its pointer quivering to perfect center before the clerk lets the piece slide into the leather purse. Tap, tap, tap. Always the same weight. Always the same hush. A pause for wolves and weather. In 1333, the clerk notes a slimmer tally. Wolves have taken a handful of ewes in the high pastures, and drought has pinched the grass. Royal Tables, recopied, 1340. A scribe from Toledo arrives with freshly engraved tables, identical to those delivered decades earlier, only written in a more fashionable hand. The parish clerk, unwavering, copies them once more. Each bracket still reads the same: 1 to 99 sheep, 1 maravedi per fleece; 100 to 199 sheep, 1 maravedi per fleece; 200 to 299 sheep, 1 maravedi per fleece. He pauses, smiles faintly, and writes the same private verdict in the margin: rate constant, tables redundant. Outside, the rain cannot decide whether to fall or not, so it simply mists the air. The quiet before a darker drizzle. By 1345, the totals drift just past a small milestone: 900 parish sheep, 360 visiting, but no trumpet sounds. The ledger notes the figures, weighs the coins, and closes the line with its familiar lullaby. And then far to the east, rumors of a strange sickness begin to murmur along the wool road. For now they travel slower than sheep, soft as the breath that leaves your lips. The parish clerk records a single sentence: word of pestilence abroad, levy unaffected. His quill dries, the candle gutters, and the page ends. Another decade has slipped by in gentle increments, each number a stepping stone across a stream so calm you scarcely see the water move. If your thoughts have drifted, let them stay adrift. The rhythm will not quicken. When next we open the ledger, the Black Death will have drawn its silent line across the columns. Yet even plague, once tallied, will settle into the same patient cadence: 1 fleece, 1 coin, and always, thus the matter rested. Until then, rest with the rain and the measured tap of copper on wood. The story is waiting, exactly where you leave it.
The rain outside has found a softer register, as if it too is lowering its voice for what comes next. Inside, our familiar clerk smooths a fresh page that already smells faintly of candle smoke. His quill hesitates just long enough to feel the weight of rumor, then begins its slow, unflustered work. The first dim warning. At the top margin he writes as calmly as noting the weather: 1347. Reports of grievous pestilence aboard the Genoese galleys at Messina. Then, unperturbed, he records the figures: 891 parish sheep, 367 visiting, servicio y montasco gathered in coin. The line ends with the usual lullaby: thus the matter rested, though something in the candle flame seems to flicker a touch longer than before. When flocks thin and coins lighten. By the time spring shearing arrives again, the rumors have become a hush that no one can silence. The clerk writes: 1348. The pestilence now present in Burgos and surrounding valleys. For the first time in decades, the tally droops: 834 parish sheep, 301 visiting. No surcharge is altered, no decree revised, only the column of numbers stepping down, as if the sheep themselves have learned to whisper. Quietly the shepherds pay. Quietly the clerk records. In 1349 the drop is sharper: 776 parish, 268 visiting. Coins clink more sparsely. The little brass balance rocks but finds its seat more quickly for lack of weight. Above the figures, the clerk adds a modest note: losses attributed to plague among herdsmen. Collection punctual nonetheless. So the pages turn: 1350, 1351, 1352, each with 1 or 2 dozen fewer sheep than the year before. By 1353, the parish total rests at a subdued 721. Visiting flocks barely crest 200. Yet the refrain never breaks. Rate unchanged. Levy gathered without quarrel. Accounts balanced to the last half dinero. If your eyelids waver, let them fall. Even plague occurs here in gentle gradations, like distant thunder muffled by wool.
A royal re-ratification, 1354.
When the pestilence has spent its first fury, a royal courier arrives carrying parchment edged in black. The new decree reads, "In light of mortal diminution, we ratify anew the servicio y montazgo at 1 maravedì per fleece, neither to be raised nor forgiven, lest the crown's revenues sink unduly." Our clerk copies the lines with the same deliberate hand, then writes in the margin, almost kindly, "May God grant the herdsman health, rate unchanged." Coins tap, pages turn. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. A slow return to familiar heights. From 1356 onward, the numbers begin a hesitant climb. 1356, 733 parish, 211 visiting. 1359, 752 parish, 236 visiting. 1362, 768 parish, 259 visiting. The plague still flickers like a bad candle in some valleys, yet the ledger is content with its unhurried ascent. Each year closes as ever, accounts balanced, thus the matter rested. 1371, the charter re-echoed. A final ripple comes in 1371. King Henry II issues a proclamation affirming every clause of Alfonso X's charter, for all time hereafter. Our parish clerk, older now, copies it line by line, barely adjusting the angle of his wrist. He finishes with a sigh that could be relief or simply habit. Servicio y montazgo to remain constant, 1 maravedì per fleece. Provincial surcharges not to exceed a half dinero. Enforcement gentle, collection punctual. He sprinkles sand, watches it absorb the ink, and adds the closing whisper, "Thus the matter rested." Outside, the rain admits a single drop heavier than the rest, then falls back into perfect rhythm. Inside, the ledger closes on an era scarred by sickness, yet undisturbed in its essential drone. 1 fleece, 1 coin, year after year, even when the bell of plague tolls in the distance. Breathe out with the parchment. Feel how the repetition, undimmed by catastrophe, spreads like warm wool across the mind. When next we open the ledger, towns will raise soft protests, asking for exemptions and remissions. But even petitions, once written, soon join the same sleepy chorus. For now, let the gentle hush linger. The rain will keep our place.
The rain keeps its even hush, while a new sheet of parchment is pressed beneath the clerk's steady hand. A little thicker this one, meant to hold more words, because townsfolk have begun to speak up. The first mild grumble. Early in 1372, a packet arrives from the wool market at Burgos, folded twice and sealed in ordinary red wax. It bears no angry flourish, only a courteous heading. Most humble petition of the Guild of Drapers, Burgos, to the royal officers of Servicio y Montazgo. Inside, the drapers explain, at length yet politely, that tallymen sometimes miscount visiting flocks, adding a fleece here, a fleece there. They request nothing radical, only a recount now and then, for the sake of cheerful fairness. Our parish clerk copies the petition word for word.
then adds beneath it, in smaller script, almost smiling, "Royal reply. Recounts permitted where doubt is plain. Rate unchanged." Coins still tap the table. Quietly the shepherds pay. Quietly the clerk records. 3 voices, all very polite. More letters follow, never shrill, always a touch apologetic, as though afraid to wake the sheep grazing in every margin. From the Council of Segovia, 1375. Certain flockmasters, pressed by plague-thin numbers, beg remission of the half-dinero surcharge for 2 seasons only. Clerk's note. Remission granted for a single spring. Thereafter, surcharge restored. Rate unchanged. From the Aldermen of Avila, 1380. Request for exemption on the feast of Saint Teresa, that local processions may pass without toll. Clerk's note. Exemption granted for the procession alone. All other days, rate unchanged. From the Brotherhood of Shepherds, Toledo, 1387. Humbly propose that fleece counts be rounded to the nearest 10 for ease of arithmetic, lest the clerk's candle burn too low each night. Clerk's note. Proposal considered, politely declined. Accuracy preferable. Candle supply adequate. Rate unchanged. Each petition, once copied, folds itself into the ledger's slow heartbeat. The very act of grievance becomes another lullaby verse. A line of ink, a courteous answer, a soothing phrase. Thus the matter rested. And then the parchment breathes again.
A note on recounts. In 1390, the Crown issues a brief memorandum, almost an afterthought, stating, "Recounts are lawful where 2 or more witnesses attest a misdeed. However, the levy shall remain 1 maravedi per fleece." The clerk copies the sentence, underlines nothing, and writes in the margin, "Witnesses seldom disagree. Levy proceeds as always." Meanwhile, the columns drift in their gentle way. 1391. 860 parish sheep, 304 visiting. 2 recounts performed, results unchanged. 1394. 863 parish, 312 visiting. 1 procession exempted for a holy day. 1397. 861 parish, 315 visiting. Surcharge steady, accounts balanced. By now, the petitions themselves feel like extra rainfall, present, persistent, yet too soft to alter the rhythm of sleep. They flutter in, receive a nod, and settle into silence. As 1399 fades towards candle end, the clerk drafts his familiar summary. Between the feast of St. Michael, year 1372, and the same feast, year 1399, 9 formal petitions were received. 3 requested recounts, performed without change in levy. 2 sought brief surcharge remissions, granted for not more than 1 season. Monial exemptions, granted for the day named. All other business proceeded at the fixed rate of 1 maravedi per fleece, half dinero surcharge for visiting flocks. Accuracy certified by witnesses where required. Thus the matter rested. He dusts the ink, listens to the rain, and lets the page dry. Breathe with the parchment for a moment. Feel how even complaints merge with cadence, how every line, petition or tally, finds its place in the great drowsy drone of 1 fleece, 1 coin. When we next lift the ledger, the 14th century will tip into the 15th, and royal tables will be copied yet again, just as steady, just as soporific. The rain withdraws to a faint murmur, as if making room for something even quieter. Our clerk unties a stout bundle of parchment,
the kingdom-wide account roll for the year just closing. It contains nothing but place names, numbers, and the unwavering verdict: 1 fleece, 1 coin. He settles the first sheep beneath his lamp, inhales, and begins to read aloud, slowly, evenly, line after line. No commentary is offered, no story hides between the columns. There is only the gentle cadence of tally after tally, each one ending in the same soft phrase: levy rendered in full. Let the words drift past like beads on a string. If you drift with them, they will keep counting without you. Agreda, 881 sheep, levy rendered in full. Alcalá de Henares, 914 sheep, levy rendered in full. Almazan, 756 sheep, levy rendered in full. Ayllón, 673 sheep, levy rendered in full. Bañeza, 822 sheep, levy rendered in full. Berlanga, 591 sheep, levy rendered in full. Briviesca, 903 sheep, levy rendered in full. Burgo de Osma, 1018 sheep, levy rendered in full. Calatayud, 484 sheep, levy rendered in full. Galeruega, 397 sheep, levy rendered in full. Carrión de los Condes, 1052 sheep, levy rendered in full. Castro Jerez, 786 sheep, levy rendered in full. Cervera, 629 sheep, levy rendered in full. Covarrubias, 574 sheep, levy rendered in full. Dueñas, 895 sheep, levy rendered in full. Fromista, 911 sheep, levy rendered in full. Grajal, 462 sheep, levy rendered in full. Griota, 385 sheep, levy rendered in full. Hatha, 291 sheep, levy rendered in full. Hita, 512 sheep, levy rendered in full. Lerma, 817 sheep, levy rendered in full. Madrigal, 644 sheep, levy rendered in full. Medina de Rioseco, 926 sheep, levy rendered in full. Medina del Campo, 1063 sheep, levy rendered in full. Molinos de Duero, 379 sheep, levy rendered in full. Moron, 489 sheep, levy rendered in full. Navarrete, 603 sheep, levy rendered in full. Osorno, 714 sheep, levy rendered in full. Palenzuela, 812 sheep, levy rendered in full. Paredes, 558 sheep, levy rendered in full.
Quintanilla de las Viñas, 286 sheep, levy rendered in full. Riaza, 493 sheep, levy rendered in full. Rojo, 174 sheep, levy rendered in full. Saldaña, 762 sheep, levy rendered in full. San Esteban de Gormaz, 884 sheep, levy rendered in full. Santa Maria de Nieva, 361 sheep, levy rendered in full. Sepúlveda, 688 sheep, levy rendered in full. Soria, 1092 sheep, levy rendered in full. Támara, 456 sheep, levy rendered in full. Tarazona, 583 sheep, levy rendered in full. Tordesillas, 891 sheep, levy rendered in full. Toro, 945 sheep, levy rendered in full. Uña, 281 sheep, levy rendered in full. Valdeavellano, 377 sheep, levy rendered in full. Valoria La Buena, 469 sheep, levy rendered in full.
Venta de Baños, 612 sheep, levy rendered in full. Villalón, 783 sheep, levy rendered in full. Villalpando, 831 sheep, levy rendered in full. Villarramiel, 656 sheep, levy rendered in full. Zamora, 1,108 sheep, levy rendered in full. The clerk lowers the first sheep, lifts the second, and the litany continues. Another 50 names, another 50 quiet counts, each one ending in the same soft assurance. Page after page, the deep list lengthens like an unspooling thread of wool, until 200 lines have passed beneath the candlelight, all identical in cadence, all faithful to the lullaby of one fleece, one coin. When the final town has been named and its levy declared, the clerk writes a single closing sentence. All tallies reconciled, witnesses satisfied, servicio y montazgo received entire. Thus the matter rested. He dusts the ink, folds the account roll with reverence, and lets the hush return. If your thoughts have floated away on this gentle tide of numbers, let them drift a while longer. In the coming chapter, we will pause narration altogether. Only rain, only the dim glow of a solitary candle, so the mind may wander freely before we resume our slow journey through the centuries-old drone of coins and wool.
The candle is trimmed once more. The ledger opens to a fresh leaf labeled simply, "On Customs taken at the river port." Our seasoned clerk settles his quill and begins, as always, with the calmest of statements. 1400. 863 parish sheep, 318 visiting. Servicio y Montazgo gathered entire. Export duty levied upon 42 bales of washed wool, 1 cuarto per arroba. The sentence ends, the rain continues. Quietly the shepherds pay. Quietly the clerk records. Aside the old. Early in the new century, Burgos hums with a sleepy kind of commerce. Bales of fleece, cleaned, bundled, and stamped, glide down the Arlanzon River towards the great fairs of Flanders. For each bundle, the crown now asks a second fee, modest, unwavering, 1 cuarto per 32 pounds of wool. Our clerk treats this novelty with familiar serenity. 1403. Export, 56 bales. Duty collected in cuartos. Weights verified upon the great beam balance. Rate unchanged. 1406. Export 61 bales. Duty rendered without quarrel. Servicio y Montazgo unaffected. If your eyes grow hazy, note how the new duty nests beside the old, like two drips of rain sliding down the same window pane, never racing, never colliding. Table after table, all the same. In 1410, royal scribes deliver yet another definitive schedule of export charges. It repeats the lone figure, 1 cuarto per arroba, across 12 tidy rows. The same in Burgos, in Santander, in distant Seville. The parish clerk copies every row, then writes, almost fondly, rate constant, tables redundant. Coins tap, maravedís for the shearing tax, cuartos for the export duty. 2 currencies, 2 rates, yet both as fixed and soothing as the drum of rain. The ledger's gentle arithmetic. 1413. 869 parish sheep, 330 visiting. Export 64 bales. Duties weighed, accounts balanced. 1417. 871 parish, 342 visiting. Export 68 bales. Levy rendered in full. 1420. 875 parish, 349 visiting. Export 71 bales. Surcharge unaltered, duty unchanged. Thus the matter rested.
Line after line settles into the same sleepy cadence, numbers almost rocking the listener like a cradle. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. Petitions return just as soft.
A single parchment flutters in from the Merchants' Guild of Burgos, 1422. Would the crown consider accepting coin in bulk at the start of the season, that bales might depart more swiftly? A royal margin answers. Advance payments acceptable, total to equal 1/4 per arroba, rate unchanged. Our clerk copies both request and reply, then resumes his gentle counting. Nothing stirs beyond the steady rise of bundles and the calm clink of two kinds of coin. A familiar closing whisper. By 1430, he drafts the decade's summary. From the feast of St. Luke, year 1421, unto the same feast, year 1430. Sheep shorn within parish 8,671. Visiting flocks 3,412. Exported 659. Duty collected at 1/4 per arroba. Servicio y Montasco gathered entire. Export payments received in bulk were requested. No arrears, no disputes. Thus the matter rested. He dusts the page, folds his hands, and lets the hush return. Two taxes now hum in the background. 1 maravedi per fleece, 1/4 per bale, each beating at the same sleepy tempo, as if the kingdom itself were a great wool-lined metronome. Rest in that twin rhythm for a while. When we next open the ledger, the 15th century will bring small rate tweaks, never rushed, always recited with the same drowsy care. Until then, let rain, candle, and quiet arithmetic cradle whatever dreams choose to wander through.
The candle's glow is steady, the rain a soft companion, when a modest leather pouch arrives from Toledo in the spring of 1431. Inside are 5 freshly struck, new-issue maravedis, lighter, brighter, their copper just a shade more red. A folded slip of parchment explains in an almost apologetic hand. Because the royal mint has reduced the weight of the maravedi, clerks shall henceforth collect 1 maravedi and 1/4 for every 10 fleeces, thereby keeping the levy's worth unchanged. Our parish clerk runs a fingertip across the crisp new coins, nods once, and copies the order with his usual unrushed care. Beneath it he adds half to himself. Practical effect, the levy remains 1 coin per fleece, arithmetic altered only in ledger margins. Quietly, the shepherds pay. Quietly, the clerk records. A slow dance of fractions. 1432, 876 parish sheep, 351 visiting, levy tallied as 87 maravedis and 7 quartos, accounts balanced to last half quarto. 1435, 878 parish, 359 visiting, same fraction tally, surcharge unchanged. 1438, 881 parish, 364 visiting, clerk notes in margin, fractions grow familiar, no disputes. If your thoughts wander, let them drift. Every fractional coin will wait. 1440, a tiny silver thread. A second notice flutters in, sealed with dull grey wax. Mint will alloy a breath of silver into the maravedi to restore confidence. Weight unchanged. No arithmetic shifts this time. Yet the clerk dutifully writes a side remark. Coins prettier, value the same, rate of course unchanged. He sets 1 coin on the brass scale. It tips, steadies, hums its tiny note of balance. Tap. Another line closes. 1441, 884 parish, 369 visiting, levy rendered in full. Petitions rekindled, still soft. 1444, Burgos drapers again. Ask whether silver-tinged coins may be pooled together for bulk payments to avoid the jangling of mixed alloy. Royal reply. Permitted, provided weight is verified. Rate unchanged. 1447, Brotherhood of Shepherds. Wonder if fractions might be rounded every 20 fleeces instead of every 10. Royal reply. Math adequate as is. Candle supply still ample. Request declined. The clerk copies each polite request, each polite refusal, and signs off, as ever. Thus the matter rested.
The candle has burned down to a quiet bead of light, just bright enough to reveal a single roll of vellum. Its heading reads, Royal Decrees on the Sheep-Shearing Levy, 1108 to 1400. Our clerk clears his throat in the gentlest way, lifts the roll, and begins the slowest, calmest litany you may ever hear. No commentary will interrupt. Every line ends in the same restful phrase, levy rendered in full. If your eyes close, the dates will keep drifting onward like distant bells. 1108, levy rendered in full. 1123, levy rendered in full. 1139, levy rendered in full. 1150, levy rendered in full. 1164, levy rendered in full. 1177, levy rendered in full. 1189, levy rendered in full. 1201, levy rendered in full. 1208, levy rendered in full. 1215, levy rendered in full. 1223, levy rendered in full. 1230, levy rendered in full. 1237, levy rendered in full. 1243, levy rendered in full. 1250, levy rendered in full. 1256, levy rendered in full. 1262, levy rendered in full. 1273, levy rendered in full. 1281, levy rendered in full. 1289, levy rendered in full. 1296, levy rendered in full. 1304, levy rendered in full. 1310, levy rendered in full. 1315, levy rendered in full. 1322, levy rendered in full. 1329, levy rendered in full. 1335, levy rendered in full. 1340, levy rendered in full. 1347, levy rendered in full. 1354, levy rendered in full. 1361, levy rendered in full. 1368, levy rendered in full. 1371, levy rendered in full. 1380, levy rendered in full. 1387, levy rendered in full. 1394, levy rendered in full. 1400, levy rendered in full. The clerk lowers the roll, sets it beside the ledger, and dries the last bead of ink with a breath so soft it scarcely stirs the air. Then, in the same even voice, he closes the centuries with one final sentence. All decrees affirmed. One fleece, one coin, accounts balanced to the smallest quarto. Thus the matter rested. That is the end of our unhurried journey. Thank you for sharing this quiet stretch of night with me. May the steady rhythm of coins and rain carry you the rest of the way into sleep. If these gentle numbers helped you drift off, feel free to tap a silent zzz in the comments when morning comes. And whenever you need another calm companion, I'll be here, ready with the next softly told tale of ordinary things. For now, the candle dims, the rain lingers, and the ledger sleeps. Good night.